And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. So, we live in a world, most of us grew up in brick and mortar. We grew up in a world where we had analog phone lines. Now everything is digital. Everybody's value is equated to what did you post on social media? How many likes did you get? In fact, I don't know if it's for an insurance company. I don't know if it's for, I guess it would have to be an insurance company where they have the guy mowing his lawn. He's mowing his lawn, and he posts something, and he gets like 100 likes, and it's a great accomplishment. And really, that's what our world has come down to. You look at someone like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who, is a social media phenomena, and that gives her this great platform. That you have people that have much more life experience, much more work experience, craving her attention, craving her support, craving this wonderkin so they can learn her dark secrets, and then all of a sudden, they too can become popular, right? And we see this in the Gem State where you have people talking about Medicaid expansion, which we'll get to. And we see this in a blog post that I wrote. And today we're going to do something never performed on the radio. We're going to call it a pre-blog. I'll write about this later. Woohoo! At KIDOTalkRadio.com, everybody. And don't forget our newsletter. Don't forget our app. But before that, we're going to do a pre-blog. So I'll share that with you coming up. But first, this idea of social media. So I posted something that hemp is the pathway towards the legalization of marijuana in the state of Idaho. Now, again, I could have gone in depth. I could have gone in detail. I could have talked about the stinky parks in Colorado. I could have used the credible information from our folks at Drug Free Idaho. And it's fascinating. To the young man, and Rayma, you weren't here yesterday when this happened. Thankfully, you went home and got some rest. We had a young man stop by, and I have a hemp book. I have a hemp DVD, and God bless our ambassador at the front desk, Linda. The young man wanted to give me some hemp, and I, and again, very nice man, very passionate about the hemp. People are very passionate about it. In fact, I'd say too passionate, really, because if it's just a plant, what's the big deal? Well, it's going to revolutionize everything. And like I said, tell me a state where they've legalized hemp that it hasn't led to legalizing other things. By the way, Wyoming and Montana have legalized hemp, and and President Trump has legalized hemp. And maybe it's harmless. My point being, echoing what law enforcement said in a letter. By the way, you can read an excerpt of that in my article, Say No to Hemp, where we talk about this, and we've talked about this again and again. And people say, Kevin, it's time to move on. Actually, this is the further development of the Kevin Miller program, where you have a topic, and every day something happens, something changes. And I just think it's fascinating that we have law enforcement officials basically outing themselves, outing the state, saying there is no THC road test, right? In this letter to lawmakers. Quote, there are no road tests available to law enforcement to test whether a plant is hemp or marijuana on the street. Now, again, we've had Eric, we've had Tea Party Bob, we've had others say, Kevin Miller, hemp is harmless. And because this is a program that talks about serious issues, and we try to do it in an entertaining way, we say for entertainment purposes only to cover ourselves. However, if you can't tell the difference between hemp and marijuana, dear true believer, you think the criminals are going to go, well, marijuana is illegal in Idaho. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get pulled over. And the canines can't tell the difference between stinky hemp and stinky marijuana. So you've taken the drug dogs out of it. We might as well just wave a magic wand and legalize it. And this is from law enforcement. By the way, I reached out to our old friend who used to be the police chief in Nampa, now in Twin Falls. I don't think I heard back from him. Old Craig Kingsbury. Out of sight, out of mind. Come on, Craig. And how did I do that? Well, through social media. That's how you get a hold of everybody, right? So if anybody's hanging out with our friends at the Twin Falls Police Department, hey, Chief Kingsbury, we'd love to get you on about this because he signed the letter. You know, Jan Bennett's Ada County prosecutor signed the letter. Now, coming up, we're going to have the prosecutor on from Twin Falls, but how about Ada County and Canyon County folks stepping up? Well, I guess when I'm reading their letter, there's no reason to do that, but there are no road tests available to law enforcement to test whether a plant is hemp or marijuana on the street. In many cases, law enforcement cannot visually tell the difference between a hemp or a marijuana plant, and the only way for law enforcement to make that determination is through a quantitative THC test, which they currently do not have the ability to do. And then it goes on, in addition, with no sideboards in place for law enforcement, all of Idaho's drug canines will become invalid. All of these issues and many more could be resolved if a consensus bill were to be considered. Unfortunately, Idaho's law enforcement community has been shut out of the conversation. Why? Look, and it goes on, and I agree with it. We don't want people not to make money. We don't want farmers not. You don't go against farmers and stay in the state very long, but you want law enforcement involved in this to get this alternative crop rolling. But you have to have some type of guidance on how to deal with it. Now, again, if something is attached to big money in the state, like Medicaid expansion, it goes through. The horse racing didn't have enough money, little buddy. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, to me, this is an open and shut case. And by the way, William Bennett was on the Fox News channel. And if you're talking about medical marijuana, he sounds off on this. And I'm going to share that with you. Remember, Fox News, KIDO Talk Radio, about the shrewdness of how the legalization effort has stopped us from the old say no days.
In public opinion polls, people favor it. Here, can I tell you why? The medical marijuana thing was very smart. You have the pictures of these children who are having bouts of epilepsy, and the cannabinol helps them calm down. True in a few cases, true in some cases. You can do that without administering a cigarette, a marijuana cigarette. As a doctor said to me, just step back from it, think about it. Does anybody really believe that you get a bunch of dry leaves, light them on fire, inhale them, and that's good for you? Can anybody seriously believe that?
Yeah, let's hit that point right now at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You light up a bunch of dry leaves, whether it's tobacco, whether it's wacky tobacco, and that's good for you? Just like people say, hey, Kevin Miller, you're a fatty. That's not good for you. You're right, it's not good for me, but being fat's not illegal. However, the shrewdness of this campaign, and look, there are a lot of people, a lot of close friends, family members of mine that have sworn by the effects of medical marijuana. And yes, as I address in the article, here's the skinny on that one. You want medical marijuana? Great. There has to be some type of strict regulation. But you know how it is. Wink, wink, nod, nod. You go to the right medical practitioner, you go to the right doctor, you go to the right person, you get what you want. We've seen this in California where they make movies about people doctor shopping and going into pot shops to get their medical marijuana.
So the medical marijuana Trojan horse brought out everybody's sympathy, and from that we've gone to this general recreational marijuana. But, you know, the final argument is, do you want to live in a country where half the people around you are buzzed all the time? And if you sat with people who are stoned, you can't really have a conversation with them because they're laughing all the time, or, you know, they're somewhere else.
You know, that's a great point. Do you want to live in a country when more than half of the people are buzzed, are stoned, are disengaged, are non-motivated, and don't care? At 580-5436. Now, we've heard the other side of the agreement. People have called me an extremist. I just say that, look, you want to bring in hemp? Okay, bring in hemp. Let's get law enforcement involved. Let's figure out how we can control this. And people have been putting up the truck driver that was driving the Mayflower truck as a victim. You got to know the laws. Jeff the Suit, what was it, 3 or 4 months ago, going through the great urban metropolis of Star, Idaho. Star, Idaho, like a lot of places, you go from 55 to 35 to 25. And the police in Star, they mean it when they say 25. Unfortunately, he didn't see the signs, was ignorant of the signs, missed the signs, and what happened? He got a sign. It was a ticket. Right? Think about that. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse. And going back to what Bill Bennett said, we're talking about marijuana a lot stronger than it was in the day. And the question being, do you feel comfortable? And this is for the people that run Boise Hemp Fest and Boise Pot Fest and everything else that find me very amusing or aggravating, whichever. There's a thin line between aggravation and amusement. However, that's a basic question. Do you want people, half the population, to be disengaged and buzzed all the time?
Who are having bouts of epilepsy, and the cannabinol helps them calm down. True in a few cases, true in some cases. You can do that without administering a cigarette, a marijuana cigarette. As a doctor said to me, just step back from it, think about it. Does anybody really believe that you get a bunch of dried leaves, light them on fire, inhale them, and that's good for you? Can anybody seriously believe that? So the medical marijuana Trojan horse brought out everybody's sympathy, and from that we've gone to this general recreational marijuana. But the final argument is, do you want to live in a country where half the people around you are buzzed all the time? And if you sat with people who are stoned, you can't really have a conversation with them because they're laughing all the time, or they're somewhere else.
580-5436, 580-KIDO. We begin with Dustin in Meridian with Kevin Miller. Dustin, thank you for calling in. Good morning.
Hey, Kevin. Hey, I just thought I'd put my viewpoint in this. I've never smoked marijuana, ever, not even tried it. I've seen people do it. I've been around it a little bit. Probably never will do it, but I'm totally for complete legalization. I just think we've gone down this road of criminalizing it, a huge war on drugs that hasn't worked. I think saying that 50% of the people are going to be stoned all the time is kind of just using fear and probably not really going to be a reality. I mean, drinking is legal. 50% of the people aren't drunk. I mean, if you ever tried to talk to somebody who's drunk, that's not fun either, but that's legal. So I do think it could be harmful, but I also think there's lots of benefits that we might be finding out. It seems like a better painkiller than opioids. There's many other benefits. I just think the pros outweigh the cons.
Well, Dustin, first of all, I appreciate you expressing those views. We're going to agree to disagree, but what would be the benefits to the larger society? I'll cede your point when you talk about better than an opioid, although, I can't even spell medical doctor. However, what are the other benefits of legalizing a mind-altering drug that has had harmful effects on states that have had it legal? And, well, I'm going to shut up now. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, well, I think some of these states have had I don't think everything has been harmful. I think some of the benefits are just getting people out of this legal system that they don't need to be in. I don't think we need to be putting people through the court system, finding them. It doesn't help. It doesn't work. And people are smoking it anyways, all over the place. I mean, it's already getting smoked. And then as far as, it being more concentrated than it used to be, yeah, it definitely is. And that, I think, is a problem. But some things I've read talked about during Prohibition, alcohol got stronger. When we make things illegal, the strength increases because it becomes easier to transport, a larger amount of product. It's more concentrated. You can move it around easier. So I just think if we wouldn't have gone down this road, maybe we wouldn't have this issue of more THC in this plant than there used to be. But going forward, I just think, like I said, I just think the pros outweigh the cons.
Well, Dustin, your ears are going to be burning very soon. We appreciate you listening and calling in so early on KIDO Talk Radio, sir.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Jim in Middleton, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Hello, Jim.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you this morning?
Not bad. It's just you and me. Good morning.
Well, in regards to the last caller there, he should visit a few states that have legalized it, go into the inner cities and the towns and see for himself what the effects are. I left my hometown mainly because of that. And what it did to the state of California, what it did to my hometown of Ukiah, California, it was just it was awful. Everyone was walking around like zombies. You know, you talk about alcohol, Kevin, I really enjoy beer. And if I'm having Mexican food, Chinese food, or pizza, I love to have a beer. I don't drink beer to get drunk. I drink it with the meal to enjoy it. When you smoke marijuana, a couple of puffs, what have you, you're stoned. There's no enjoying the fragrance like a cigar, you know, or maybe a glass of brandy and what have you. Yes, people do abuse alcohol. I get that. But many more people will have a beer. That's what they make. They make brown beer, light beer, different flavored beer, and so forth for the taste. Most of the people enjoy it for that reason. That's fine. Marijuana just gets you buzzed and stoned and out of your normal mindset. And another thing, people need to look at who's funding the pro-marijuana laws and what have you. Look behind the curtain and see who's pushing this. They want to further dumb down people with this. And in regards to the medical part of marijuana, well, almost all of our medicines come from plants, animals, earth-based, and so forth. But if you have cancer, does that mean you could make your own opium or whatever they use for that and take all you want? No. This is a false argument, Kevin. I've seen it firsthand, and it's not a good road to go down. Anyway, Kevin, you have a great day, bud.
Jim, thank you for calling in and listening to KIDO Talk Radio, brother. See you.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We continue on responding to a thing I posted at KIDOTalkRadio.com, why Idaho should just say no to hemp. And hemp is the pathway to legalization of marijuana. We go to John in Boise with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Kevin. Hey, I just wanted to call in because I did grow up around drugs, smoking pot, and all that people want to make is great. But I think one of the things that people are not talking about with this, especially with having the law enforcement involved, is there is a violent side that comes along with it. I have talked to many people about that reason that nobody ever brings up is, you know, we have cattle all over the place. And cattle rustling is still a very, very predominant thing that people steal. And the thing about cattle is it's all branded. You can get cattle back. But when you're growing these plants, people are going to steal. And when they do, it turns violent very quickly because there is no way of calling the cops and having them go look for your serial number or anything else on this plant. And they're worth money. Regardless if they're legal or illegal, they're worth a lot of money. And there is definitely a violent side that anybody who's been around that lifestyle at all knows it's very real. And maybe hemp or maybe actual pot plants. It's definitely there, and nobody wants to address that fact. They want to say it's just good for you. But there's a lot of downside that I think people are not realizing or at least addressing. So thank you for bringing it up.
Well, we will tell you something, John. We appreciate you bringing these facts up, and you're not going to get that anywhere else. People just seem to love the story. And it's interesting, the law enforcement take wasn't really placed predominant here locally. In other parts of the state it played, but we're essentially the only outlet echoing law enforcement saying this is not a good thing.
Definitely. And I had a lot of family come through the great 70s of sex, drug, and rock and roll and tell me there's a lot of bad that comes with that. You know, and nobody wants to address that. They just want to address the happy-go-lucky, makes you feel good. But that you know, like they say, Al Capone wasn't a violent criminal. He got arrested on tax evasion. You know, and people want to say, well, there's no violence. This isn't bad. Yeah, I beg to differ.
John, thank you for listening to KIDO. You have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. More of your calls next. Hemp, the pathway to legalization of marijuana. We'll talk about it at 580-5436. Looking forward to joining the conversation with you, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Oh, we are getting it started. God bless you. It is Thursday, and what a better way to spend the day with a morning conversation on the right side. Kevin Miller in the morning. Coming up, Pete from Mountain Home, Barb from Sunny Slope, and you. And if you want to read that blog, KIDOTalkRadio.com, why Idaho should just say no to hemp legalization. More on that in a minute. First, let's get you to work safely and on time.
Evans, Every Gabbert.
And I'm Kevin Miller. I want to hear from you next. KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
And coming up, Pete from Mountain Home, Barb from Sunny Slope. First, Rachel Sutherland joins us concerning, well, what's going on between our country and Mexico. Rachel, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Well, Jared Kushner, he has met with the president of Mexico, AMLO. We'll just call him for short because his name is kind of long. And what they're talking about is investing U.S. money to have industry and economic growth in Central America and Mexico. So we're talking Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, because, to keep people from coming, because going to the root of the problem. Now, it's going to take a long time to get that ship turned around. I mean, they have crime, they have drug cartels, they have all kinds of problems, and it's not going to be an instant fix, but they're talking about investing $10 billion. I mean, that could build a lot of wall if you think about it, but the idea is to try to keep them from, keep the caravans from coming through Mexico, saying that they'll offer more visas to Central Americans to get them work in Mexico as well.
Of course, obviously, this is one of the major campaign promises of the president, talking about ripping up NAFTA, getting a better deal with both Mexico and Canada.
Absolutely. It's part of all that. Of course, the tariffs are still in place, and Canada's not too happy about that. But the president maintaining that there needs to be a new agreement, and they've been working towards that. But this is part of a separate discussion. And there's no, papers to be signed or anything like this. This is just a preliminary discussion with this president, who is a bit leftist, AMLO, but still has he's a bit of a populist at the same time. So he has that in common with President Trump. They're similar in some respects, but different politically. But at least they're talking. And so in that respect, that can be good news.
Rachel, anything we should be looking out for today? There's always the roller coaster in your part of the world.
Well, yeah. I mean, this dispute goes on between the late John McCain, if you can have a dispute with someone who's on the other side. But President Trump, keeping up that dispute and people reacting in Washington to the things that the president has said. But really, Congress is off right now and out of session, so in that regard, it's kind of quiet. But it's really never a dull day here in D.C.
And you're just the person to cover it.
Well, we have three of us here in the D.C. Bureau, and it takes all of us to get it done, that's for sure.
The big three.
Yeah, we have to. I mean, it's a round-the-clock job.
Rachel, we so appreciate you. You have a great day.
Thanks, Kevin.
Our great friend, Rachel Sutherland. All right, back to the topic. If you're just waking up, we wrote a blog. Hopefully the spelling's correct, and Daniel Tiger worked on my grammar. But regardless of that, and if not, I'm just relatable to everybody else. Grammar is overrated, and so is phonics, as you have listened to this program know very well. Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. What we're yapping about is I firmly believe that the Idaho State Senate should shut down the hemp. And you heard comments earlier from Bill Bennett saying medical marijuana, that was brilliant, how they've used that as a pathway towards legalization. And do you want to live in a world where half the population's stoned? Not me. We go to Pete in Mountain Home on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning, Kevin. I think Jim in Middleton had a really good point on the difference between alcohol and where you end up after the hemp and the medical marijuana. With legalized marijuana, you can have a beer, a glass of wine or two with dinner, or you can have a beer on a cold day. And not be a drunk. But you smoke one marijuana cigarette now at the current strength that is being put into it, the THC, and you're stoned. I don't think you can say, oh, this is just it's just going to mellow me out. It would be like every time you sat down to drink a beer, you got legally drunk, and I think that's where you get with the marijuana. One of them, and you're gone, you're stoned. And I when I was a much younger individual, I knew some people that we called stoners, and they weren't really there most of the time. It was, yeah, man, like, yeah, cool. And
well, would you want your doctor to be stoned?
Oh, yeah, or your the policeman who's pulling you over,
right?
Yeah. Oh, and something else, if I can bring up an interesting little commentary on the news media in this country, the coverage of the Boeing 737 crash. And, what went on with FAA, the approval, and the FBI is investigating and yada, yada, yada. You will notice they never say Trump's FAA approved it or this was approved by Trump's FAA. And they won't tell you when the approval came. And what that tells me, it was under Obama that it was approved. And we don't want to say that. And you look at all of the other corruption that went on under the Obama administration, and you got to wonder, but you notice the media does not mention when it was approved.
Well, let's just speculate to cover ourselves.
Yeah, my speculation is it was approved under the Obama administration, and when you look at everyone else at the upper levels of the Obama administration that were corrupt, the Secretary of State, the Justice Department, the FBI, all the rest of them, is there any reason why the FAA wasn't, like somebody up there was maybe getting some contributions to the Clinton Foundation?
Here's the deal. You spend a lot of money, you lobby people, and you can redo an airplane and not have to train the pilots. Yeah. In fact, what was it on the flight recorder? And this should be, pardon my French, damning to everybody that was a part of that stupid plane. They've got people looking up in the book how to find the override switch in a panic before they go down.
Yeah, and that is a training issue. And I don't think you find that with pilots in America, because most American pilots are guys with experience flying multi-jets in the Air Force.
And the training was they sent you something you were supposed to look at on your iPad.
Yeah. And it was the trim tab switch is basically, I think, what it was.
Right.
And the plane was trying to correct a problem, as far as maybe they were going to stall and the nose was dropping, and then the pilots are, oh, my God, the nose is dropping, and they'd yank back on the stick instead of just turning the switch off.
Because they didn't know where the switch was. Pete, thank you for the call.
Thank you, sir. Catch you later.
All right, our great friend Pete from Mountain Home. Let's go to Barb in Sunny Slope. We continue to take your phone calls at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. I think Barb is down with the hemp. She is down with the marijuana, but I don't want to speak for her. Barb, good morning.
No, Barb is not. Barb is an herbologist, as you know, and I do recognize that there are medical uses for this. However, I also know that for everything that can be handled using marijuana medically, another herb that is not illegal, that doesn't whack you out of your mind, is available also. So if they didn't want to go allopathic medicine, you still don't have to use the marijuana.
So you're not down with the hemp or any of this stuff?
I've thought about it a lot, because at one point I was, kind of down with it. I was kind of up, going for the hemp. You were but smoking the hemp. But the CBD oil. That's where I was looking at. Mm-hmm. But I've thought about it, and I've seen. Have you seen the video "Seattle is Destroyed"?
No, can't say that I have.
If you haven't, you need to, and anybody listening needs to. And this is what it deals with. It deals with Seattle doesn't have a homeless problem. It has a drug problem. And you can watch this and see how it has totally destroyed a city. And of course, Seattle is only one of many cities destroyed by this. And it's appalling. And so at one point, though I was down with the CBD, not down with marijuana ever, I kind of have revised my thought process, saying, there are other herbs that you can use. You can take I can't even think of two different companies, but let's say you have a brand of an aspirin from one company and a brand of...
Let's put it all on the table. Do you agree with me that this is a path towards legalization, or am I off my perennial rocker?
No, I think it's a path towards legalization. I really do. I think this is dangerous. And I don't think Idaho should jump on board with...
Well, why would they not consult with law enforcement officials?
Well, I didn't hear you on that.
Why would they not consult with law enforcement on this big issue here?
I can't imagine. But, and I think law enforcement would be smart enough to fight this. And I say that because when I lived in Colorado, and this was up in Colorado for debate and for vote, law enforcement that I spoke to actually was pro this. And the reason they were using the same argument of, I don't know that they're pro now, that they've seen the effects, but at the time, before it passed legally, they were pro because they said we keep arresting people that, for this little amount of marijuana when we have some big crimes out there. So, they had this view, but now that it passed in Colorado, I'm sure their ideas have changed. And now that we see the effects of it in all the other states that have passed it, I'm sure their thoughts have changed. I think the police ought to rise up on this. I think people ought to rise up on this. I think it's dangerous.
Well, what do you want to say to them?
I'd
say to them.
Which one?
Say it right now about the people that are, because I'm outgunned on this one. Now, you hear the show. I'm outgunned on this one.
I know you are. I've been listening. I think I think the police ought to rise up and really fight it. I think that people ought to rise up and really fight this because I think it is a gateway to stuff. For anybody that says medically I need it, I'm going to say once again, medically there are other herbs you can take that are not as detrimental, not as problematic, that would handle the same thing. So you don't have to use marijuana or any of its derivatives to handle it.
Barb, I got to run, but thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Holly in Caldwell, thanks for your patience. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Hello, Holly.
I think that I would have to disagree with you. I don't think that this is the pathway to legalization of marijuana. I think this is the pathway to putting Idaho in conformity with every other state that has put this in with the Farm Bill. I think that hemp has so many good products. I know we had Tess on wanting to talk more about that. I think that I'm totally against marijuana, but hemp is a whole other product. And, you could go out and smoke your irises in your yard. We can't legalize, or you can't legislate morality. What are we going to do, ban the Tide Pods? I mean, people teach your kids, but people are going to put in their body whatever they choose, whether it's to overeat, whether it's to get drunk or whatever. So I'm all for the farmers being able to thrive in Idaho and create money to pay for all the things that are needed. Hey, maybe they'll even pray for Prop 2. I don't know. But I think we need to be careful about pretending that it's something that it isn't.
Hold on. That was funny. That was really funny.
Yeah, I think so, too. Hey, and I got to have a shout-out to KIDO for letting people come on and see all the things we get to. We defeated Marcy's Law because of the involvement of people, and I want people to stay plugged in. This Friday, the Senate has finally pulled the bill out for HB 206, the constitutional carry bill. The hearing is at 7:30 a.m., of course. But we got to hand it to Christy Zito for working so hard to make sure that the Second Amendment applies to all adults everywhere in Idaho. And we want to thank KIDO for helping with that as well.
Well, we want to thank you for keeping us accountable, because if we don't, we have to answer to you.
Well, yeah, somehow I'm the authority, right, Kevin? No, actually, we are in the land of the free, and so we don't want to legislate away all of our rights. If the founders had been told they had to shut down the plantations, they would have said, that's enough. And we don't need to have everything legislated about what we can and can't do with our own land.
Fair enough. Holly, thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Great comments. Okay, we'll continue on at my peril, but first we're going to go to Mary in Midvale, and I believe I've been to Mary's house. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. This was an issue I just couldn't stay quiet on. My two oldest sons were brought up in Huntington, West Virginia, and if you know anything about Huntington, West Virginia, it is, it's a dismal place to live, basically, because a lot of the heavy industry and the coal industry was shut down. People were without hope. But my oldest son, thank God, went off to the Air Force. My middle son, very bright, he's now dead, got involved when he was probably 13 or 14, and it was peer pressure. And I've seen marijuana take away your incentive. I've seen marijuana, and I'm not talking about cocaine or heroin because I've never witnessed that, but your personal dignity, it is just horrible, and I would never, ever advocate legalizing it. It's just another step for the powers that be that want to enslave us and keep us dumbed down and keep us, I don't care, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, Kevin.
Well, Mary, God bless you and your family, and thank you for sharing that story. We're sorry for your loss.
Well, thank you. And, Kevin, come see me anytime. We're still here.
A great view at your house, and keep running Midvale, Mary.
I'm keeping them entertained up here.
Take care. Thank you, Mary.
All right. Bye, Kevin.
Bye-bye. You're listening to Kevin Miller on your home for Hannity, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be with you, waking up on the right side. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Coming up next hour, more on the hemp and the marijuana, but if you're staying with us, we'll also get your comments on the New Zealand Prime Minister announcing a gun ban. Wow. And one Democratic presidential primary hopeful is pressed on whether or not there should be a national emergency declared on your Second Amendment rights. Not only that, Governor Little, Governor Little signs the teacher pay increase. Good for the teachers. That's awesome. Doesn't take effect for a couple years. However, we can afford to give the teachers a raise, but not the taxpayers a break. Those stories and more coming up first.